Before we begin the video, if you haven't yet, come on down and join my Discord server. Link is down in the description. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for our Season 13 ranking updates, and today will likely be our final Ninjago Season 13 Master of the Mountain video, or at least it will be for some time. But yeah, whenever we get a new Ninjago season, we're introduced to new villains, new intros, and rather than going back and updating every single video, I like to make this one video where I update all of my rankings. So yeah guys, let's figure out where Season 13 fits in the rankings. We have 8 different things to discuss today, including finales, premieres, villains, and more. So let's begin. So Master of the Mountain has the same intro style as the last 2 seasons, and I think this one is actually done really well. Now, seasons 11 and 12 had 2 very abstract intros, and that's totally fine. I love abstract intros, but I really enjoyed that this one was more specific to the season, and I really like the variety. The animation here looks gorgeous, and the recaps are very cleverly implemented. I would say though my only issue is the recaps. I feel the recaps can't really get better than this, but in this specific intro, the 3rd one is too fast and the 4th one is too slow. I mean, I think the recaps have definitely gotten better since Season 11, but just showing clips without any kind of audio or narration isn't the most effective. What I would say I love the most about this intro is the music. The Fold rocks it with the Shintaro Dungeon Whip, and I'd say this is one of their best ones yet. I honestly don't see any of the new intros ever topping most of the old ones, but I would say this one is better than Season 8, Season 3, and the last 2. It was overall a really good intro, and they're definitely getting better with the style, so for that reason, it's in 8th place. This season's main antagonist is King Vangelis, or the Skull Sorcerer, and he may not have turned out to be Klaus, but he was still pretty good. What I really enjoy about this villain is he's evil. He's pure evil, and he's not redeemable in any way. And as I've said many times, this was a great contrast coming right after Unagami, and yeah, I really love the variety here. I really enjoyed Unagami, but it was definitely time for a darker villain. And Vangelis is definitely that. He enslaves people, he starts war, and that was definitely the kind of villain this season needed. He has an awesome design, and I like the changes they made in the show, and also his voice was really good too. And as for the Skull of Hazadur, I really enjoyed it. As opposed to the typical artifact, it was definitely alive and sentient, and I feel that was really cool. The drawback to this character though is that while he is a very good villain, he isn't necessarily the most interesting character. He's basically just your average power-hungry guy. I also felt his conclusion was kinda underwhelming, and I would have preferred if they went with something darker. So in our big list of villains, I'm going to place him in the middle, in between Unagami and the Ice Emperor, and I feel he was definitely a good villain, but not fantastic, you know? Let's discuss a few villain subcategories, starting with motives, and these are all videos I made ages ago in the first few months of my channel. The majority of Ninjago villains want power or control, but not Vangelis. Vangelis actually wants money, and I find that to be really interesting because we've never had a villain with economic motives before. I think it's definitely a nice change that connects well to the real world with companies and businessmen that don't really care about their practices. What I also like is that his motives on paper aren't entirely bad, but it's the way he achieves these motives that are completely unethical. So I'm going to put Vangelis in top 5, right underneath Garbodon and right above Moro. Every Ninjago villain has some kind of soundtrack, theme, or motif, so let's take a listen to these Skull Sorcerers. I really like the soundtrack and how violent and chaotic it sounds, with the beating of the drum I think in the background. And if you remember back in the first teaser, we heard a 3-note motif for most of the trailer, and we hear that here as well, and it's a wonderful accompaniment. So I put Vangelis' theme in 8th place here. And at number 1, we still have Nauticon. 7 seasons later, this is definitely still the best villain theme. So we're about halfway through the video, and we have one final subcategory to discuss, and that's going to be backstories. Most of the season's backstory is about Lily and Griefbringer, but the Skull Sorcerer does have some in there, and I would say it's good, but not the best necessarily. I feel there are a few very minor missing pieces of info, like, is the Skull of Hazadur actually this guy's head, or is it just his artifact? Also, I feel Hazadur could be explained a bit more. I think that would have made for some interesting backstory. But, I mean, yeah, the Skull Sorcerer does have a good backstory. The main highlight of the season's backstory was very clearly Lily and Griefbringer, and I do feel the Skull Sorcerer's backstory is good, but it's basically just your average rise to power story. So I placed the Skull Sorcerer in 10th place. I think the thing about the top 3 villains is they have very compelling, very emotional stories, and those ones to me definitely stand out. But enough of the villain stuff, let's take a look at the premieres now. This season's first episode is called Shintaro, and it's alright. I mean, this episode has some nice casual moments, and I would say the greatest success was the return of Misako, and of course the godly postman, but beyond that, there really isn't much. I guess the ending was good and the ninja got invited to Shintaro, but the majority of the plot elements are very clearly reserved for episode 2, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but the trade-off is this episode isn't as exciting. Yeah, this premiere could have been done better, but ultimately I'm not really upset because episode 2 was really good, and this episode still was good. So Shintaro is in 10th place, and I would say it is the worst of the good premieres, and by that I mean Infamous and Below are all bad episodes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do feel Shintaro's a good episode. It just isn't the most interesting necessarily, and it isn't great. But that being said, there's definitely a big step up from Infamous to Shintaro. Anyways, let's take a look now at the finales. This finale is really good, easily the best episode of the season, and I would say is the best episode since season 10 as well. I feel it has very powerful emotional moments for Cole, and also it isn't nearly as rushed as the past finales, and we can really credit that to episode 15 for doing such a good job setting up the finale and final battle. We also have the battle with Cole and the Skull Sorcerer, very well animated, and one of Ninjago's best fights yet. I would say my only issue is that Vangelis' conclusion isn't the best. I mean, just let him die, please. I really enjoyed this finale, and I'm putting it in between the two Oni Trilogy seasons, Season 8 and Season 9's finales. It is a really well done finale, and as for why it isn't higher up on the list, well, other finales are just better. And this brings us to the final one, ranking the seasons. Where will Season 13 fit? As I've said many times, I don't feel this is just a good season, but a great season. And as the first Cole season, it was very successful. I really enjoyed him in this season, and I feel like overall it did a really good job of backstory building, and I thought Shintaro Mountain as a location and as a setting is very cool. Master of the Mountain kept the successes Prime Empire had, but also fixed its flaws. And if that isn't a sign of a successful season, I don't know what is. It's got humor, charm, soul, heart, but it also is able to tell a very compelling story, and overall, I really enjoyed the season. While I don't feel the season is top 5 worthy, I have it in 6th place, and it is right below Skybound and above Rise of the Snakes. I feel the season generally is about the same level as Skybound, but Season 6 just has a better villain and a better character story overall, so that's why it is a bit better in my opinion. Season 4 is by far still my favorite, and since my last update video, I've switched Sons of Garmadon and Hunted, moving Season 8 up to 2nd place. And I will be updating this video soon, sometime in early August. I know a lot of you have been asking for that, so stay tuned. And that about brings it close to this video, as well as my Season 13 coverage. And it's been a fun ride. I hope you guys have enjoyed these videos. Moving forward, we'll be back to general Ninjago content, and I'm hoping to update a lot of the ranking videos like intros, villains, etc. Also, we are so close to 7,000 subscribers. It would be awesome to hit that number tomorrow or even later today. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone or everyone you know. Leave a comment explaining where Season 13 falls in your rankings, and I'll see you guys next time.